Using the Asus ROG Ally really made me wonder, is it worth it to have good hardware and bad software, or mediocre hardware and great software? I'm going to go over my issues with the ROG Ally and Windows 11 in this video. I'm going to divide this section into 4 segments, and I will cover the general hardware, the display, performance, storage, and the battery life of the ROG Ally. I'll be honest here, the hardware is pretty good on this handheld. Being released back in June of 2023, it's well over a year old at this point, but the hardware is still good. It's made out of plastic, but the build quality itself is really good. It feels solid, and I like the design of it. Button placement is pretty good in general, and it's finished in a nice solid matte white color. It has customizable RGB rings around the joysticks, and there are 2 front-firing speakers placed on either side of the display. My only complaint with any of the buttons is that the back buttons are too hard to press in some spots. The display is good. It is a 120Hz 1080p panel, so it's very smooth and colors are decent on it. The brightness is kind of underwhelming though, and I wish it could get brighter. The bezels are thin enough where I don't think that they would bother anybody based on size alone. It's got a 7-inch display, so it's going to be bigger than a big smartphone, and it's also going to be bigger than something like a Nintendo Switch. Performance on this machine is good too. It features the AMD Z1 Extreme processor, and I was able to run just about any game that I put on it at medium settings. I don't do heavy gaming, and most of the games I play do not require a high-end PC to run them, but for casual gaming, I had absolutely no issues. It features 16GB of RAM, which is becoming the standard in newer devices, and I had no issues with the upgradable 512GB NVMe SSD. If you want to upgrade to more storage without taking the machine apart or replacing the original drive, there's also a micro SD card slot at the top of the device, although some users have reported overheating issues due to the placement. I will note that using a micro SD card will be slower than using an SSD. Battery life was alright. Comparing it to the Steam Deck though, I am not impressed, but not disappointed. It really did not last too long when playing Black Ops 6 or Forza Horizon 5 though. My Steam Deck lasted a bit longer on Forza Horizon 5, however, the Steam Deck does not support Black Ops 6 natively. It charges at 60 watts though, and I was able to confirm that it really took 60 watts of power. It can charge up in about an hour and a half or so from 0 to 100%. The hardware was quite good. It's really hard for me to complain about anything hardware-wise on this console. It's really the software that ruined it for me. Windows 11 is awful. I don't understand how Microsoft is such a big company, yet they continue to produce some of the worst software. Microsoft is worth $3 trillion, yet they still cannot make software that reliably works. I ran into a few main issues while using Windows on the ROG Ally for 3 days. On the first night that I had this console, the official Microsoft Xbox app got stuck on loading. I then tried to restart the entire device and it got stuck on restarting, which will be a recurring issue in my experience with this device. The settings app also froze up around this time and I couldn't access any of the menus in the settings app itself. The official Xbox app, which I will again say is made by Microsoft, refused to start a download. When I tried to pause the download, the button was unresponsive. I had to force restart the entire console to fix this issue. More on why I had to force restart later. The taskbar was persistent on the screen, even when entering a full screen app, which should have hid the taskbar. This issue fixed after I locked and unlocked the device. This one is partially on Asus, but their Armory Crate software, which is used to change settings on the device, was completely ruined by Windows. I was unable to properly navigate the user interface while I was trying to change the button mapping. This could again be on Asus, but I feel like Microsoft is to blame because my Steam Deck has never had these types of issues. Now for more on the restart issue that I mentioned earlier. I cannot restart this console. I'm not sure if this is due to a bad installation of Windows, but I've encountered this issue multiple times while using Windows 11 on different devices too. When I try to restart the console, it gets frozen on restarting with a spinning circle. This will happen for about 5 minutes and then the console puts itself into a deep sleep mode where it's still on, but it's unresponsive to any and all inputs. I had to force restart the console to get it out of this mode, and I was then able to boot into Windows again like normal. Windows sometimes will not let the console sleep. I've also had this issue on nearly every other Windows 10 and Windows 11 device that I've used. I'm not sure why, but when I press the power button to put it into sleep mode, Windows will go to sleep normally, then after a couple of seconds it will force the device to stay on the lock screen and I cannot turn the display off without powering the entire console off. This wastes battery life and it also shortens the LCD's lifespan. I don't have any malicious third-party programs downloaded or really any third-party programs besides Steam at all, so I'm not sure what the cause of this is. Windows will also refuse to let me sign in with my fingerprint on occasion, and I will be forced to put my PIN in, even if I don't lock out the fingerprint reader from failed attempts. I don't know why this happens, but it has happened to every Windows 11 machine that I've had with a fingerprint reader. Alright, last issue for now. When I let the console sit overnight, Windows will power down automatically. This has happened to every Windows laptop I've used since 2017. I don't know how to disable this action either. It's annoying because it will stop all of my downloads and it takes longer to boot up from a state of being powered off compared to starting it from sleep mode. I thought the reason for having sleep mode is to still let some background stuff happen, but pause the device from making any major decisions or turning off entirely. I could absolutely see why this console costs $650. The hardware is great, the performance is great, but the software falls short in so many areas. I just don't think that it's worth $650 when the usability and user experience is just bad. I'm not saying that the Steam Deck is a perfect console. It has its flaws, especially realizing that it just flat out can't run many games on its pre-installed OS. But at least SteamOS is designed to run on a handheld console and the UI accommodates handheld console features. I think that Microsoft's development team should put more money into making Windows stable again, and I really can't see what they're paying their employees to do at this point. There really hasn't been any major additions to Windows in a long time besides Copilot, but I don't think that many users need yet another AI chatbot wasting resources on their computers. Google Gemini and ChatGPT can most likely do just about everything that Copilot can do. I'm really disappointed that the software on this console is bad, but I know that Asus couldn't really help the fact that Microsoft is just a really big circus. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, then a like would be appreciated, and you can subscribe to see more content like this. And with that said, goodbye.